Mr. President, you've said that Iran does want to make a deal. Now, into the third week of this bombing campaign, what would that deal look like? What are the ask that you're making of the government in Tehran?
They want to make a deal. They're talking to our people. I don't know if they say that to you. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Don't forget, they are a country that for years, I didn't know this until recently, they're a country based on disinformation. And now they're using disinformation plus AI. And that's a terrible situation. That's a terrible situation. They showed all sorts of things happening in the last 2 weeks that never happened. Between their kamikaze boats that don't exist, between blowing up the aircraft carrier, one of the great ships in the world, the Abraham Lincoln, on fire. They showed it on fire. I called the general. I said, General, what's with the Abraham Lincoln? It looks like it's burning down. No, it's not burning down. Not a bullet was ever fired at it, sir. They know better. I said, this is my first glimpse of AI and what they've done with it. They showed buildings in Tel Aviv burning to the ground, high-rises burning. They showed buildings in Qatar. They showed buildings in Saudi Arabia burning, and they weren't burning. They weren't hit. It was all AI-based. Terrible. It's terrible. And that's their only, I think that's the only thing they do well. They're negotiating, and we always talk. When, somebody said, well, would you talk? Why would you even talk to them? I talk to everybody because sometimes good things come out of it. But I don't know if they're ready yet. They're taking a pounding. I don't know if they're ready yet. And we don't even know their leaders. Look, all of their leaders are dead, as far as we know, but they're all dead. We don't know who we're dealing with. We knocked out the first group. Then the second group met, 88 met to pick the leader because the first group was all dead. And the second group got knocked out. They're all dead. Then the third group met. I would think they're a little nervous about meeting. I don't know if they're nervous. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're crazy. If they're not nervous, then they're crazy. But we met with the next group, but we don't know who their leader is. We have people wanting to negotiate. We have no idea who they are.
What are your advisors telling you about the Ayatollah's son, the new supreme leader? What are they telling you about him?
Well, it's not only them, it's you people. I mean, a lot of people are saying that he's badly disfigured. They're saying that he lost his leg, the one leg, and he's been hurt very badly. Other people are saying he's dead. Nobody's saying he's 100% healthy. And he hasn't spoken because the Ayatollah would sit and he'd spew hate from a form of a throne, not as nice as a throne. I like the English throne much better, but it was a fancy chair. But he'd spew hate from his chair. But you'd see him a lot, right? This one we haven't seen at all. So that could be for a lot of different reasons. We don't know, Peter, if he's dead or not.
And now that you've announced,
I will say this: nobody's seen him, which is unusual.
Now that you've announced that the U.S. has destroyed all of Iran's mine-laying ships, why can't the U.S. just immediately reopen the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, we could, but it takes two to tango. We have to get people to take their billion-dollar ship and drive it up. If when Pepe has his big sugar ships coming around and they cost $1 billion, and we say, I think it's okay now, Pepe, take your ship, drive it through the Strait of Hormuz. He may say, let me wait a little while, because it takes ship owners, and these ships are very expensive. They could cost up to $2 billion. So they don't want to take a chance that, gee, I think you'll be okay. They got to know it. So they don't have to set, we don't know if they even set any mines. But the thought that they may have is enough to keep people from saying, we don't need it. Now, we are pounding that area, that coast, as you know, left side. We're pounding it, like really pounding it hard. And again, they may have no mindset. We hit every one of their mine droppers. They call it the mine layers, right? The ships. They're pretty sophisticated ships. Every one of them is gone. But it only takes one. So it's a little unfair. You know, you win a war, but they have no right to be doing what they're doing. But we're hitting them very hard. And today is a big day. We're pounding a certain area that has very much to do with the Strait. And I think we'll get it going very soon. In addition, we do have other nations coming in. You need people to watch and people to see. We have other nations coming in. Yes, please.
If the United States is working to secure the Strait of Hormuz for the benefit of other countries like China, and our allies aren't yet stepping up to your standard, is the United States getting back to being the world's policeman?
Look, the United States should not be very much involved. They can on a certain basis. They've been doing it for a long time. But I've always said, if you look back years ago, I said, why aren't we being reimbursed? You know, these are the richest countries in the world. Why aren't we being reimbursed for maintaining the Hormuz Strait? And why aren't we being reimbursed for that? I've said that for years. You can go back. They reported on it yesterday. I've been saying a lot of things about the Straits. Number one, I said it's the one advantage they have, but that's a suicidal advantage because they kill themselves more than they kill the rest of the world. And there are things you can do with time. There are other things you can do. But I think we're going to have the situation straightened out pretty quickly, and I think we're going to have some good help, and I think we're going to be disappointed in some nations too. And I'll let you know who those nations are.
One of your advisors, David Sachs, said the other week that the U.S. should, quote, declare victory and get out of the Iran war.
Yeah,
he also warned that if the conflict escalates, Israel may contemplate the use of a nuclear weapon. Has he shared that assessment with you?
No, he hasn't. Israel wouldn't do that. Israel would never do that. And yeah, there's a theory. You've pounded them to hell, and you could just leave now, and it'll take 10 years for them to build back not nearly what they have right now. And I guess that's another theory. But we want to have it ended so that another president doesn't have. Look, for 47 years, no president was willing to do what I'm doing, and they should have done it a long time ago. It would have been a lot easier. There's no president that wanted to do it. And yet every president knew. I've spoken to a certain president, who I like, actually, a past president, former president. He said, I wish I did it. I wish I did. But they didn't do it. I'm doing it. Yeah.
Which president?
I can't tell you that. I don't want to embarrass him. It would be very bad for his career, even though he's got no career left. Go ahead, please.
You mentioned.
How about the man right
Thank you, sir. Mr. President, you mentioned that you're not entirely sure who you're dealing with, who the leadership is in Iran. Do you see a viable opposition movement still in that country following all of the protests that we had seen before the airstrikes and kind of an opposition movement that could become a viable leader in Iran?
Well, the biggest problem, and you know, we have brave people in this room, but the biggest problem that I see is that, you know, they put out a warning, and we have the warning. We get everything they get. And it said any protester that goes onto the street will be immediately shot and killed. This is a little tougher than the American way. This is not quite as tough as, nobody can believe it. So I can't imagine, they don't have guns. And the other ones have guns. Highly sophisticated machine guns and AK-47s and other kinds of guns. And they did that with the women. So the women had 250,000, even 500 people protesting a year ago. And they shot women right through the middle of the forehead with snipers. And they didn't have to do many. About 10 went down bleeding profusely. And 250 to 500,000 women went running in the other direction. Because they can be brave, but they're not stupid. And they have no gun, and you have snipers in buildings specifically for this reason. So a woman goes down falling, bleeding from the head, and it doesn't take long for that to spread. And when that spreads, that crowd dispenses. And nobody else has been able to do that to the extent that these people are violent. They killed a minimum 2 weeks ago, 32,000 people. So, and they put out actually a notice 2 days ago. If you protest, you will be shot and killed. So, I don't know. I would say Mike Johnson's the only person I know who has the courage to go out in that kind of an atmosphere.